Okay. Brief review. I want to be recording this. This is 33 on the Chapter 8 review worksheet. The directions are to solve for y and graph it. So in terms of y, I identified I had a y squared term and a y term. So I'm keeping my y squared and y term on the left. So I've got y squared plus 4y. And I'm in the process, when I realized I should be recording, of moving all my other terms to the right. So my positive 16x squared I subtracted. Positive 32x, I'm going to subtract 32x to the right. And minus 12, I'm going to add 12 to the right. Okay, how do we complete the square? If I have y squared plus 4y, one thing good to notice is that I have 1y squared already, don't I? If I have 1y squared, we're already in that form. We don't have to divide anybody or factor anything out. So then, at that point, you're going to use your b value. B divided by 2, and square it. In this case, what is my b? My b is the number in front of y, and so b is 4. So at that point, you're doing 4 divided by 2 and squaring it. 4 divided by 2 is 2. 2 squared is 4, so we're going to add 4 on the left. If I add 4 on the left, I'm going to add 4 on the right. In this case, because nothing was factored out or anything, it's just a plain old y squared, right? Or it's just a plain y squared, so we just add the regular 4 on both sides. As I always say, after you add that b over 2 quantity squared, you are now ready to factor. Once you complete the square, our job is to factor. You're factoring into 2 identical parentheses. You can think product and sum. Y squared breaks into y times y, or the square root of y squared is y. I like to say the square root of 4 is 2. And then my 4y in the middle has a plus, so I'm going to say y plus 2. On the right, I can clean it up. Negative 16x squared minus 32x plus 16. If it's y plus 2 squared, how do I solve? To get that squared to disappear, we're going to take the square root. Since it's y plus 2 squared, we're going to take the square root. If I square root the left, square root the right, square root of y plus 2 squared is just y plus 2. On the right, the square root of that expression is just the square root of that expression. I am going to say plus or minus the square root of negative 16x squared minus 32x plus 16. And then last step to get y by itself is to, if it's y plus 2, we're going to subtract 2. So y equals negative 2 plus or minus square root of negative 16x squared minus 32x plus 16. And if you look at my answer key in Schoology, you'll notice that's not what I have boxed, but I would accept this. Okay, this would be acceptable. It would be equivalent. I would be okay if you stopped there. The answer key box there is under the radical. I factored out a 16. And so if you factor out a 16 under the radical, And I'll show that step in case some of you have been confused there. If I factor out the 16 under the radical, then I can take the square root of 16. And the square root of 16 is 4. And so that's where you get the negative 2 plus or minus 4 times the square root of negative x squared minus 2x plus 1. And actually, as I look back at the answer key now, my first answer is actually 2 up, 2 lines up. Okay. Either of these are good to plug into the calculator. When you plug it into the calculator, realize you're going to have to plug in 2 different things, right? Also, when you look in the answer key, I showed this completing the square. That's probably your best bet there for 33. I did also show it quadratic formula, but you wouldn't have to go quadratic formula here. So I don't know why. I really kind of question why I put the quadratic formula option on there, but I think I would probably stick with completing the square here. Did you get to graph okay if you tried it? What shape should you guys have? According to my answer key, I have it as an ellipse. I don't have control over how they numbered the axes there. So did you notice that they put 12 way out there? And if you go back and look, they're counting by 2s. So I tried to write that out there. But yeah, that is not me doing that. That's them. So I haven't pulled it up on the calculator. I can if, and I can help you guys if yours isn't coming up right on the calculator. But it looks like it's going almost left 2 and almost up 4. I have it about up there. Looks like it goes, almost left 2 and down about to 7, in between 7 and 8. Something like that. Does your ellipse look something like that? Give or take? Realizing you have to type into and if yours is not looking like mine, I would go back and check, make sure that, if something as simple as missing a negative sign can make all the difference in the world on these. One missed sign can change it from a hyperbola to ellipse and vice versa. So. You can't see what I just grabbed. They are not very connected at all, are they? So I guess it's a good thing I did. So if you got an upper half of a parabola and a lower half of a parabola and there's a big old gap in the middle, that is our lovely graphing calculator failure. Okay. Now, obviously, you have to then sketch this on your paper. Do I want to see just the top half and the bottom half? No. Be smart. Connect them, right? Together they form an ellipse. So make sure you don't just have bottom half, top half. Because I probably count off if you don't connect them. Because I need you guys to, use your smarts. Okay, logical. This is an ellipse. They should connect and look like an ellipse. Okay. I don't know if that was helpful or not. You guys are all quiet today, but. you guys have a question, feel free to ask. Otherwise, I'm just randomly picking things that I think will be helpful. Yeah, Jacob?
Can you pick 28?
28? I was going to pick 29.
It could be an odd one today.
Because I was just thinking, okay, if no one says anything, I'm going 29.
Everyone.
Well, and they're both good, don't get me wrong. 28 and 29, both graphing hyperbolas, they're both good. I think 29 is a little more basic, and I actually think it'd be a little more helpful for the upcoming test tomorrow. Okay? So, okay, changing screens. Let's go 29. Okay. Y squared over 49 minus x squared over 9 equals 1. Okay. This is the graph of there's a minus sign in the middle, so that means it is a hyperbola. Okay. It could be either going out left and right or out up and down. As you try and think about which form this is in the y squared over a squared minus x squared over b squared form. So is this first column or second column? Or left column or right column? Because y squared is first, this is a second column hyperbola, right? So we know it's going to be a hyperbola. I know it's from the second column. And it's not that you have to write this information down. Because it's from the second column, I know that my hyperbola is going to go up and down, correct? Because that y comes first, just realized I didn't make it y squared up there. Because that y squared comes first, it's going to be an up and down parabola. If x squared came first, x's go horizontal, it'd be left and right parabola. Now, information. What's a? Right. If the first value is 49, a squared is 49, so a is 7. If b squared is 9, then we know b is 3. Remember with a hyperbola, a happens to be bigger here. A does not have to be bigger. Okay? A is whichever value is under the first fraction. The fraction that has a positive coefficient. I'm looking at the answer key and I'm seeing I found C. You don't necessarily have to find C to graph this. Okay? Where is this hyperbola centered? My numerators are just x squared and y squared. So where is this one centered at? Since there's no x or y plus or minus, this is just centered at 0, 0. Okay, helpful to know here, I think. So as I sketch this graph here, you obviously have a graph already set up there. Your graph goes out to 10. Because this is just x squared and y squared as my numerators, my center is at 0, 0. Okay, so I'm going to put a dot there. And I guess it's not necessarily that there has to be a dot there, but it's helpful to have something. Now, I like to count my A and my B out from the center. A is 7. How do I know which way to count 7? Do I count left and right 7? Or do I count up and down 7? A values are under Y's. Which way do Y's go? Y's go up and down. So I'm going to count up and down 7 because this is under the Y value. So I'm going to count up to 7 and down to 7. Those are my A values that I counted up 7 and down 7. What do A's also represent? C's represent foci and A's represent vertices. So these are also the vertices. Okay. My B values, I'm going to count, B is under X in this case. My X-axis goes left and right. And so because of that, I'm going to count 3 left, 3 B, 3 B, 3 right. Okay, those are my B values. In an ellipse, these 4 points form the ellipse, the A's and your B's. In the hyperbola, these 4 points form the rectangle. So I'm going to make a rectangle through my A's and my B's. Okay, so I made a rectangle through my A values and my B values. And what's the purpose of this rectangle? It's going to provide me the box to make my asymptotes. Asymptotes, take your time. Your goal is for your asymptotes, and I like to start my asymptotes in the center, just because it's the only way I personally can line it up. But your asymptotes are supposed to go through the center and the diagonal corners. Whoops. Okay, see, back up. I don't like what I was going there. I was starting to miss the corner. So it doesn't have to be perfect, but I want to see effort that you tried to get it to go through the corners, which is why my trick is I draw 1/2 at a time. Can you guys see my asymptotes okay? I did it in that light gray, but okay. So I've got my rectangle, my box. I've got my asymptotes. Where do I actually draw my hyperbola? We already talked about the fact that it is going up and down because Y is the dominant direction here. My A values were on the Y-axis, and your A values form your vertices. And we already talked about these being the vertices. So I have a parabola opening up from there and down from here. Make sure you can graph something like this tomorrow. I didn't pick a fancy one. I just picked a basic one. Make sure you can graph something like this basic one tomorrow. I want to graph an ellipse too, but we'll see. Yes?
If you have time, could you do like 7 or 8?
I sure can. I can do whatever we need here. So the request was for 7 or 8. Where are we at time-wise? You guys got what you need off of this screen? Let's see, 7 or 8. I don't know that I have a preference here on 7 or 8. you have a preference on 7 or 8? No? Let's see, I don't really have a preference on 7 or 8. I'll pick 8, I guess. Okay. As we look at 8, find the vertex, focus, and directrix of the parabola. Hint, complete the square. And as I grab my blue paper out with my parabola formulas, notice which variable is squared and what is given. X squared is the squared variable, correct? So as I look at my parabola, my front page of my blue paper, the parabolas, if x squared is the squared one, I'm going to realize that I'm going for that left column of x minus h squared equals 4p times y minus k. Okay. That logic makes sense to you guys? Why I would look at the left column there. Now, as I'm trying to make this happen, I need that left column to be, that left side to be x minus h squared. And notice the hint was to complete the square. So my suggestion is that we get our x's on the left so we can complete the square, everybody else to the right. So I'm going to keep x squared minus 10x on the left. I'm going to leave a gap. And then I'm going to subtract 8y and subtract 1 over to the right because there was a positive 8y and a positive 1. We've already completed the square once today, yes? So if we're completing the square here, x squared minus 10x. So my b value is negative 10. So negative 10 divided by 2 is negative 5. Negative 5 squared is 25. I'm going to add 25. If I add 25 on the left, I'm going to add 25 on the right. Again, there's nothing in front of x squared multiplying by 25, so it's just a plain old 25. On the left, let's plan to factor it, right? The whole idea of completing the square. X squared, square root of x squared is x, so it's going to be x. 25. The square root of 25 is 5. Because that middle term is minus 10x, this is going to be x minus 5, quantity squared. On the right, if I clean this up, it's still negative 8y minus 1 plus 25 is going to be minus 24. Plus 24 better? Sorry, Miles had this weird look on his face. It's like, okay, I've done something wrong, or Miles is really confused. One of the two. Okay, minus 1 plus 25 plus 24. Okay, that's my bad. Got it. Now, as we go to figure this out, there's one more thing I want to do. X minus 5 squared, that looks like x minus h squared, doesn't it? On the right, it's 4p times y minus k. Do I have a y minus k here? No. And so to get y by itself, factor out that GCF, or factor out the coefficient of y, which is negative 8. So I'm going to leave it as x minus 5 squared. And then my coefficient of y is negative 8. So I'm going to factor out negative 8. If I factor out negative 8, y minus 3 in parentheses. And now, this is of the form x minus h, quantity squared, equals 4p times y minus k, right? And all I did is I just wrote that underneath so you can kind of match up the form there. I don't even know what, I'm trying to remember what we had defined. Vertex, focus, directrix. And remember, we were working in the left column. So vertex is supposed to be h and k. What are my h and k values? Since it's x minus 5, h is going to be positive 5. Since it's y minus 3, k, or my y value, is going to be positive 3. So I have a vertex of 5, 3. What else did I say? Focus and directrix. Okay, focus. I'm going to use my chart, yes? What's it say about the focus? It says my focus should be h, comma, k plus p. Remember, this is the parabola, so we just have one focus, and it's inside that parabola. We know h and k. What we haven't talked about is our p value. Do you guys see where we could find p? I look at the fact that there's a -8 factored out front. In our setup, it's 4p. So I would use the idea that 4p equals -8, and if 4p equals -8 and I divide by 4, p is -2, is what I would use. So I'm doing h, comma, k plus p. We already said h was 5, comma, k is 3, plus p, so plus -2. So then I would say my focus is 5, comma, 1. And then we're also asked to find the directrix. Again, checking out my left column, it says y equals k minus p. So y equals k is 3 minus p is -2, so minus -2. So I would say y is 5. Okay. Does that help a little bit there? That was probably a good one to go through. Okay. What else? I've been kind of hung up on graphs this morning. I don't know why, just because I feel like it's something that... And if you guys have something you really want to say something, please, because I will definitely do whatever you guys want me to do. But if you guys don't have anything, I was going to suggest 17. Make sure we can graph an ellipse. Okay. 17 looks like this. Curiosity, which column is 17? Is this a left column or a right column ellipse? I know it's an ellipse because there's a plus sign, right? And so I know this is an ellipse. How do we know first column or second column? This one you have to look at your bigger A value, right? A has to be bigger. And so this one is a first column. That was my guess, so it's Dayton.
Can I get a math picture of that one on the truck?
Uh-huh. You must have forgot to ask for one in the office, too.
Yeah, I did. So I was up there walking.
Okay, so first column ellipse, and remember in an ellipse, A must be larger, yes? Okay, A must be larger, I guess I should say than what, and I'm going to say A is larger than B. So with that in mind, this is of the form x minus h squared over A squared plus y minus k squared over B squared equals 1. Okay? So, of course, you can identify some information here. I would definitely pick out where your center is. X value is x plus 3, so opposite of that means it's a negative 3. Y coordinate is y minus 1, so opposite of that is 1. So we have a center at negative 3, 1. My A value, if A squared is 16, then we know A is 4. If B squared is 4, then we know B is 2, correct? This information I'm trying to make sure we have. Let me go ahead and sketch this out. The one other thing we need to address here is which way A's go, which way B's go. But, okay, let's see. My center is at negative 3, 1, correct? With that in mind now, okay, A is 4. From your center, you need to count 4 in both directions. But am I going left and right 4, or am I going up and down 4? And how do I know? A is under which axis? Or A is under which variable? A is under the x variable. Which way do x's go? X's go left and right. So A is going to go 4, and that's going to be 4 right over to negative 1, and 4 left over to negative 7. Those are my A values. Okay, and it's an ellipse, so they're not vertices or anything fancy. They're just, well, I guess your A values are your vertices, aren't they? Okay, sorry for getting my vocabulary here. Those are still your vertices, but they're just edges of your ellipse. Your B is 2. What variable was that under? It was under the y coordinate. Y values on a graph go up and down. So from my center, I'm going to count up 2, and I'm going to count down 2. Those are my B values. Folks, you connect your A's and B's to make an ellipse. Okay. Is there anything else you want to talk about real quick? Okay. Test tomorrow. Have your blue paper ready to go with you, right? Or ask me if you need another one. Have your calculator with you ready to go. have a pencil with you ready to go. If by chance we were to end up on a 2-hour delay, I would either postpone the test to Wednesday or I would have to split the test. And I haven't thought that far ahead. If for some crazy reason we would, I don't see why, but if we'd end up out of school, there would definitely be no test. I'd come up with something else for us to do.
You wouldn't do the test when you were home?
What?
You wouldn't do the test at home?
No, we would not do the test at home. I am incredibly anti-home test this year. I got tired of all the cheating last year, so that's what it comes down to. So I don't give tests at home this year. And I get it. Not everyone cheats. I understand that. But unfortunately, I have enough to do. So
It was hard to take a math test from home anyways.
it is, well, and that's the other thing, is it's very time consuming. It's hard to get you guys to do it with, because then you're either having to upload the paper or you're having to type stuff into the computer, which is crazy impossible. So